In the 2025 playoffs, tension was already high, but the Aces versus Fever matchup took everything to a new level of controversy. The numbers alone are staggering. Aaliyah Boston, one of the most physically dominant centers in the game, didn't shoot a single free throw in games 1 and 2. Not one. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Wilson lived at the free throw line, collecting 26 attempts across the series as if she had an all-access pass to the charity stripe. Boston ended the series with just 17 attempts, and nearly half of those came in the final minute of Game 4, when Vegas intentionally fouled to stop the clock. Strip those away, and what you have left isn't competition, it's manipulation, and that's just the beginning. The moving screens Wilson got away with weren't minor infractions. They were blatant textbook violations that anyone watching from the stands could see. Analysts went frame by frame through game footage and counted 37 separate uncalled moving screens from Wilson throughout the series. That's almost 8 per game. She shuffled her feet like she was doing a dance routine, threw her hips into defenders, and used her shoulders like a linebacker, all while the officials stood there, motionless, like they were afraid to blow the whistle. The moment everything broke wide open came during Game 5. The Fever were mounting a comeback, energy building, crowd roaring. Aaliyah Boston set a perfectly legal screen at the top of the key, feet planted, stance solid, everything by the book. But then came the sound that froze the entire arena, the whistle. Offensive foul on Boston for a moving screen. The replay proved she hadn't moved an inch. Commentators fell silent, unsure of what to say because there was simply no justification for the call. From that moment, the tone of the game changed. Boston had to play timidly, second-guessing every move, while Wilson continued to bulldoze her way through possessions without consequence. Even Fever head coach Christy Sides couldn't take it anymore. In her post-game interview, she publicly called out the officiating, declaring that Aaliyah Boston is the worst officiated post player in the league, and that there's a glaring double standard in how certain players are treated. Coaches risk fines for criticizing officials, so when someone like Sides speaks out, it's not an emotional outburst, it's a cry for justice. She made one simple point. If the refs want to allow physical play, fine, but it has to go both ways. Consistency shouldn't be too much to ask, but it was. And what happened next only deepened the outrage. Wilson wasn't just getting away with moving screens. She was breaking basic basketball rules that even kids in youth leagues would get called for. Footage surfaced of her double-dribbling mid-spin move, grabbing the ball with both hands before resuming her dribble like she'd forgotten the fundamentals. Another play showed her taking 3 steps without bouncing the ball, a travel so obvious even the opposing bench started laughing in disbelief. Yet the whistles stayed silent, as if the officials had collectively decided that Aaliyah Wilson was immune to the rulebook. The free throw disparity only highlighted how warped the officiating truly was. Boston guarded Wilson directly for most of the series, taking constant contact while staying disciplined and vertical. She's known for her ability to defend physically without fouling, a skill refined through years of elite-level play. Wilson, on the other hand, spent much of her defensive time switched onto smaller guards to conserve energy. Despite that, Boston ended up with 19 fouls to Wilson's 14. It makes no sense on paper, and it made even less sense on the court. And the uncalled moving screens weren't harmless. They changed games. One play saw Wilson practically tackle Lexi Hull to open up a wide-open 3. Another had her stick her leg out to trip a defender, clearing the lane for an easy layup. Analysts identified at least 10 points in the series that came directly from illegal screens that weren't called. In a playoff series decided by tight margins, those 10 points might as well have been 100, but the defining moment came in overtime of Game 5. With the score tight and 2 minutes on the clock, Wilson set another blatant moving screen right in front of the baseline referee. No call. The resulting possession led to a dagger 3-pointer that sealed the Fever's fate. Players on the floor looked around, hands raised, disbelief written on their faces. It was like screaming into a void. No one was listening, and the officials weren't about to step in. What made it all even more suspicious was the timing. Every time Indiana started building momentum, every time they began to claw back into the game, that's when the phantom calls appeared. Boston would get hit with a whistle for the smallest contact. Hull would get called for fouls that barely made sense in slow motion. Meanwhile, Wilson was allowed to play by playground rules. It was as if the officials were working off 2 entirely different playbooks, one for the Aces and one for everyone else. The fallout has been explosive. Analysts and former players have come forward, many anonymously, to say they've never seen officiating this one-sided in a playoff series. Watching the film confirms it. The bias isn't a theory. It's visible, quantifiable, undeniable. Selective enforcement of rules isn't just incompetence, it's manipulation. And if the league doesn't address it, it's an indictment of everything the WNBA claims to stand for. Lexi Hull's post-series comments added fuel to the fire. She talked about getting elbowed, shoved, and screened illegally all game long without a single whistle in her favor. She said she's played against physical players her entire career, but never experienced anything like this. Trying to guard Wilson, she said, was like playing against someone with diplomatic immunity. Hull counted at least 15 instances where she was hit hard enough to draw a foul and got nothing. That's not competitive basketball. That's sanctioned assault in sneakers. The statistics back it all up. 0 free throws for Boston in 2 games despite being the focal point of her team's offense. 26 for Wilson. 37 uncalled moving screens. 19 fouls on Boston, 14 on Wilson, despite Wilson being the aggressor on both ends. These numbers aren't coincidence. They're proof of bias so blatant it borders on rigging. And here's the part that should terrify every fan. If officiating can be manipulated this easily in the playoffs, what does that say about the league as a whole? How can fans trust the results when games appear influenced by who the league wants to advance? The Fever didn't lose because they were outplayed. They lost because they were outnumbered. 5 players against 8. The referees weren't neutral. They were participants. Even more concerning is the WNBA's silence. No statement from the league office. No acknowledgement of complaints. No promise of review. Nothing. The lack of accountability speaks louder than any press release ever could. It tells fans exactly where the league's priorities lie, and fairness clearly isn't one of them. If the WNBA wants to be taken seriously, this has to be a turning point. Fans deserve honest competition. Players deserve an even playing field. The league can't keep preaching integrity while turning a blind eye to blatant bias. This isn't about one player or one team, it's about the soul of the sport. Because if fans stop believing that what they're watching is real, the entire foundation crumbles. The film doesn't lie. The evidence is right there, clear as day. Aaliyah Wilson might be an incredible talent, but greatness should never come at the expense of integrity. Aaliyah Boston and the Indiana Fever deserved a fair fight, and they didn't get one. So what do you think? Was this just human error, or did the WNBA deliberately protect its favorite star? Should the league investigate these officials and issue public accountability, or will they keep pretending nothing happened? Let us know your thoughts below.